You're standing in a game store in late 2006. You're almost up to the counter to buy this new motion control console from Nintendo. $250 in hand, along with a stack of games you plan to trade in to get a few extras. Your mind races with the thoughts of all the fun you know you're about to have. Finally, it's your turn. The clerk starts some small talk, intent to keep your attention while they make their mandatory sales pitch for an in-store perk subscription, but you're already enthralled by the large white box in front of you. You make the transaction, opting to pick up a few of the launch games with your trade-in pittance, and scoop up an already used controller to complement your purchase. At the exact moment you grab the box from the cashier, your vision tunnels and fades to black. Upon coming to, no longer are you holding the box with your shiny new purchase, but instead, the long-aged and rotting carcass of the once brand-new device sits in its place. You shriek with horror at the realization, without yet seeing the true scale of the tragedy. As you look away from the pitiful pile in your hands, it dawns on you that the ground underneath you is, in fact, jagged and uneven. When you investigate, it becomes apparent that not only is the item in your hand an old, disheveled heap of what it used to be, the very ground beneath your feet is too. Your surroundings, all off-white, scratched, and dull. You clamber quickly to the top of a nearby mound to gather your bearings when it hits you. The entire landmass you stand atop is made of old, broken Wiis stretching out to the horizon. Millions of them. In a blur, you attempt to flee from the sea of disrepair, and after a while, it looks like you found reprieve. Off in the distance, you see what looks to be an end to this madness. Finally, a color other than off-white. Yet, as you approach, your relief turns to even more horror. At the edge of this expanse, you find what looks to be the layer underneath. Matte black with blue highlights. You can't help but stoop to see what this layer contains. Crumbled bits of black plastic hide the somewhat intact yet unmistakably ruined shells of an unfathomable amount of PlayStation 2s. Just as all hope seems lost, you hear a familiar sound nearby. A new portal. Maybe this will return you home. Maybe this is the way out of this nightmare. You sprint with as much speed as your now weary body can muster, desperate to take your chances with another portal. But as you reach the destination where you heard the sound, all you find are further masses of devices not yet known to you. In your confusion, you didn't even notice a new portal open above you, with millions of Nintendo Switch consoles in freefall. Maybe if we all had a vision similar to this before we purchased a console, there wouldn't be the vast piles of e-waste and landfills that we find today. These devices are created with expiration dates far prior to what the hardware would suggest, but most consumers aren't buying a product with this in mind. If you were to take each of these best-selling consoles from prior generations and consolidate them into one area, it would be akin to the one described before. The vast number of consoles that make their way to the trash is truly staggering, as it becomes more expensive to repair them each year after they've been sunset by a new iteration. I'm definitely not trying to blame the end user though, as most people would rather continue using the devices they already own, with many others opting to jailbreak their consoles to do so. For these manufacturers to spend small fortunes to actively prevent this reuse is downright criminal. While I do agree that at some point, all devices are going to degrade to the point of diminishing returns and scarce spare parts, other devices are better set up to receive aftermarket repairs or third-party alternatives in order to help keep them relevant after support is dropped by their manufacturers. Obviously, they're still going to release new consoles, and obviously, people are still going to buy them, as old hardware can't forever stay relevant. Hell, even the mythical GTX 1080 Ti is losing driver support this year. Console manufacturers have no prerogative to continue supporting old systems, and, if anything, actually have incentive to age out your old console as soon as an alternative is released by them. This profit incentive leads them to do all kinds of things, like hold off new console releases until they can squeeze every last penny from a would-be sale, or invest large portions of money to prevent these devices from being used in any manner not directly profitable by them, and by extension, ruling out any chance these things have much more of a destiny than landfiller. There were 101.63 million Wiis sold. It's number 7 on the list of best-selling game consoles, and the only reason I used it for the title is because of the pun. If we add just the top 10 bestsellers together, it's over 1 billion consoles sold. Granted, handhelds amount to a lot less wasted silicon and plastic than larger in-home consoles, but it's still a mind-blowing amount. Now, with these billion devices, add in the controllers, games, memory cards, and other peripherals people regularly bought to complete the experiences advertised by these consoles. All of these devices and accessories that, after a console ages out, wind up in the trash right alongside them, like the gifts and pets left in the tombs for pharaohs and high-ranking members of Egyptian society to take to the afterlife with them. This particular problem is slowly diminishing, but it wasn't until recently that you could use your old gamepads on the next generation of devices, and even then, they don't have access to these new features as a way to further entice you to upgrade. We can surmise, logically, that the Switch, now that the Switch 2 is out, will be making its own way to the trash before long, as even though Nintendo plans to support it for the remainder of the year, there's not much guarantee that they will continue to release first-party games beyond that. Or in other words, Nintendo will likely stop providing the thing that so many people bought it for in the first place as a way to nudge people into buying their new handheld. There's very little in the way of actually ascertaining a number of these consoles still left in working condition, but we don't actually need any hard, fast numbers for this. The percentage of consoles in the landfill is irrelevant to the wider point, one about the absurd waste it is to only allow these things to be used for a singular purpose, and once that purpose is fulfilled, to be cast into the trash in favor of their next iteration. There are many ways people can make use of these devices after they are abandoned by their creators, one of them being to jailbreak them, a process in and of itself created by people not content to let their devices wind up in the garbage when they still work just fine. One look at the PS Vita homebrew scene shows a vibrant community who decided that the Vita was fine and it was Sony who was wrong. They opened their doors and their minds to let this poor, neglected system shine, and in the process, keep it supported to this day. The only downside to just officially supporting methods for opening up your system is that you can't lean on your players to upgrade to the next iteration if they're not yet done with the one you just released. They can't easily encourage a player into the next version if there's no reason to leave the one you're on yet. Seeing that Nintendo has just released another device with deliberate security measures in place to prevent the unauthorized usage of a piece of equipment you own, it's not likely that any of these major manufacturers will see a compelling reason to do this, and so the numbers of new consoles with a premature expiration date will just grow. This is more of a forced obsolescence, wherein the device itself isn't necessarily designed to break after a planned time period, but rather when the new iteration is available, necessary software, hardware, or both, and the machine just sort of break. Without alternatives to repair your current system, and aside from the used market, which exists for any product regardless of its repairability, your only choice left is to purchase a new system, which has its own host of problems. These systems could easily be used for a decade or more after the end of their lives, just in different forms or with a different use case than was originally meant. Remember how PS3 sold a not insignificant number of units simply because it came with a Blu-ray drive for similar to the price of Blu-ray players at the time? Actually, PS3 isn't a great example here because it had officially supported ways to install Linux and to be used for things where Sony couldn't directly profit. If I were a betting man, I'd wager that there were vastly more PS3s not only in usable condition, but actually being used than any other option on the list of best-selling consoles, and it's not because the PS4 sold badly. When you factor in the push for game preservation done to keep these games in a playable state after support officially ends, it seems like the best bet for all of us, not just those interested in retro games, is to keep these consoles in good condition, and to have parts and repairs available for when that isn't an option. We have to keep this push alive, and to ignore these detractors whenever applicable, as it's probably our best shot at slowing the rate at which these electronics lose their viability. Like if there was one singular Xbox Series console with specific modules containing components like RAM and storage varieties, or even different boxes with separate cooling solutions, APUs, and power supplies. Something to where, when applicable, you can use components from your previous system to make an upgrade cheaper and less wasteful. I know things like RAM, when soldered, have increased speeds that make it appealing over the alternatives like DIMMs, but there are already different socket types being made which diminish that advantage significantly. Companies like Framework have the right idea, but due to it being such a novel thing, the systems they use to manufacture these aren't really scalable yet, not at least to the scale that console manufacturers need to support the demand for their newest consoles. If there were easy ways for consumers to avoid unnecessary waste, while still getting to use the new things being made, I doubt there would be a need to create entirely new console generations at all. I know there will always be people who would rather not fiddle with additional parts or have to worry about doing the upgrades, and if done correctly, they wouldn't. Those people can just buy the base system, or maybe a max variant with the highest tier components available. We already see aftermarket parts and pieces being released for current consoles, as the demand is there. All I'm saying is there would be demand for these parts for older consoles too, if the companies making them didn't force their retirement early. There wouldn't be mounds and heaps of usable electronics and peripherals rotting in a landfill if the practices creating them were abolished or rectified, something that can only happen under capitalism if it ever shifts to a direction where they make more money not doing it. I know that, in this world especially, this is likely the least of your concerns, and no matter what, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. But there can at least be conscientious usage of the things we do purchase. We have to buy, yes, but maybe we don't have to consume. Can we only buy once? Make separate purchases when necessary, of course, but make them not always necessary. I've always looked at PC building like the ship of Theseus, wherein at one point throughout its life cycle, it does become a different PC, but at no point after the initial purchase is it ever a completely new PC needing purchased. The cost over time to stay relevant in PC gaming pales in comparison to that of consoles, which have these premium taxes like online memberships, fewer game sales, and the general higher prices for worth-the-crap peripherals, just to name a few. There are indeed stark differences inherent to PC ownership and console usage, but when I ask console players why they won't build a PC, it strikes me as more of a I don't want to spend the time to learn how, and less of a I don't and can't know how to build a PC. I get that the GPU market is a poorly timed joke, and that consoles are a cheaper initial purchase, but given the absurd amount of waste that exists because of the console industry, it seems like this should be more often a factor in people's minds when determining if they too want to contribute to Wii waste.